Welcome to the Daft Souls podcast. My name is Malaise, as always, and I'm joined by Christopher Bratt.
Hi. Hello.
And Tamar Hussain.
Hello, count how many times I say like and then let me know
Okay.
on Twitter.
Is that your thing?
That's my thing right now. Someone told me you say like a lot and it's been...
Oh, God. Yeah,
It's
you
been
don't want to know
annoying
that.
the
You never
hell
want
out
to
of
find
me.
out.
That's not that bad. I think in the online stuff, I think saying like and is not as bad as saying and
Yeah,
I
but the
think
thing is
that's
like...
more acceptable.
There you go. See, I did it there unintentionally.
Oh, God, no,
I hate
no.
it.
I probably do it
I
as
hate
well.
it so much.
But unfortunately, what people don't realise unless they've actually got into the process of trying to do podcasts is that trying to train yourself out of those little habits it takes
difficult.
years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm trying that now because I had to edit a podcast.
I think that's actually the only way you stop doing it is when you get frustrated having to edit your own voice.
That is
when
and,
you realise.
Yeah, and when you're editing 3-hour long podcasts and you can hear yourself
That'll
saying
do it.
like
Absolutely.
about 1 billion times.
I get frustrated when I see people on the internet saying, "Oh, this guy's really annoying on my videos." It's like, I know that. I'm the guy who has to edit myself for hours. Like, I'm really annoying. I know that. Anyway, what have you guys been playing lately?
I've been playing a cool video game. Cities Skylines, which is not a good name for a game.
City Skylines.
Cities, plural, Skylines, plural. It's the new king of city building
Is this
simulation.
the one that I get the impression that basically just snuck in and captured people's hearts purely on the basis that it didn't manage to fuck everything up as much as
That's
SimCity?
exactly what it did. I mean, the guys that made it to finish well, I can't remember their name.
Paradox, is it
They're
Paradox?
the publisher, but I've forgotten the name. That's terrible. But they have made city games before now. It isn't a complete reaction to SimCity. However, yes, the reason people are so happy with it is because there are 3 things it doesn't do. It doesn't have always online DRM, which SimCity doesn't now, actually, I don't think. No. But still, it
lets you make cities that are big.
Yes, it actually quite expensive, and this is the best bit. There is a limitation on how big those that your kind of play area can be. But there's already a mod out there that allows you to expand that, and that's the third point. It has modding capabilities, and there is already a very cool community forming around it. And like, it's a good city building game, but those 3 things are actually probably the 3 things it didn't do are actually like the most important parts. It reminds me of when PlayStation seemed to have an amazing kind of PR field day with the fact that they weren't Xbox for a while.
I remember that. When Xbox going, we're doing all of these new things, and then PlayStation just
we're not doing any of them.
We're not doing anything that's new. And everyone was like, yes!
Yeah.
We're not doing anything new!
And
Paradox as a publisher, they have a habit of doing that. They will... I don't know if they do it unintentionally or if they do it on purpose, but they have this. It's almost like they watch out for big games and see what they're not doing and what people are wanting from them, and then doing them so themselves. They did that with their
watch for somebody to fall. And
but they're great. They now own they actually develop like the Crusader Kings series.
That's
that
the one that I was
European
talking
Vitaliy.
about. Yeah,
they're now the kings of grand strategy for me as well.
They did the grand strategy thing where people were like talking about we want to create our own stories in Civilization better, and they just made it so open-ended that I think HBO are now talking to them about licensing, or they're talking to them about their Game of Thrones mod. To be like, if we wanted to do something, because the Game of Thrones mod for Crusader.
I thought you meant that like somebody at HBO would be going, I've been playing this Crusader Kings 2 game. It's an amazing story. And then HBO then bought the rights to history from Paradox. Or Paradox going, I can't believe that. We just took £5 million for the rights to the Tudors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're all over the Crusader Kings now.
Well, and so Paradox as a publisher are doing pretty damn well. But City Skylines is just a good city building game. It does a lot of things in a similar way to SimCity in terms of the presentation style, that kind of focus.
Because I actually loved, and it's got me in a lot of trouble, but I loved a lot of things about EA SimCity. I thought a lot of the stuff that people complained about was, it was bollocks. Like, I didn't like the online nature of stuff. Well, I would have done if it had actually been implemented properly. Yeah.
Oh God, we are talking about the Xbox One. How did this happen? How did this happen?
But no, I love the idea of having like a bunch of different cities that all work together, and you make lots of little city things that specialise in areas and stuff. But then it didn't really work.
Yeah, it is a lovely idea, but there's so much was sacrificed to chase after that, and Yeah.
Again, Xbox One.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, so there isn't any multiplayer in Cities Skylines, but you can achieve a similar effect in the single player. You can create the map, the playing field is so big that you can create your own cities that specialize in different things. And actually, even within the cities themselves. So the whole building kind of infrastructure, it works in a similar way to SimCity. You kind of, you colour in bits of the map. You build all the roads, and then you'll be like, this bit can be residential, this bit will be industry, this bit will be commercial, and then buildings pop up as a result. But you have a few layers of control on top of that. Like you can pick certain areas to be districts, and you can name them and have a lot of freedom with that stuff. And then you can, for say, if you've made an industrial district, you can tell it to focus on a certain type of industry that fits your image of what kind of city it is. I've gone mainly like lumberjacks and farming. I didn't go high tech at all, which is weird.
You get a sense of like the society changing due to the economic decisions you make.
Yeah. So another like actually with SimCity is that although you could follow around individual Sims, if you actually did that, you found out that their jobs actually changed on a daily basis, and there was no consistency. Whereas this seems like they've got that right. And yeah, you can generally like it's all pretty basic. It's maybe not as kind of in depth in any part of the game as some people would like, but for me it's been perfect. I got a sense that if I click on a sim, I can kind of, you see where they live, you can see which high school they went to, and actually education is a really good way of seeing that progression of your city, because it takes so long for your city as a whole to become educated. It feels that there is a sense of progression there.
Well, that's one of the things I really liked about SimCity. Lots of people complain about the lack of specific simulation. Like you couldn't, if you followed one person, then it was kind of fudged because it was simulating.
But as a city as a whole,
it was simulating a society, rather than individuals.
Yeah.
And I didn't really mind that.
I think the focus is still there, to be honest, with this as well.
But I just love the way when SimCity, when I raised my first city, I made everyone really intelligent. It was a really healthy, green city, everything was great, everyone was happy. And then the second city, I was just trying to make tons of money.
Yeah.
So it was like coal mining, and then I started building all the schools and stuff, and the game was like, hold on there. Like, you realise if you make these people too intelligent, they won't want to work in coal mines. Has it got that sort of element?
Yes, that happens. And in fact, like it does it. It's still quite a base level. Like it's got this stupid pop-up system where citizens of your cities will tweet at you or tweet in general, which gets a bit repetitive, and eventually you want to turn it off. But it's quite a nice little quirk to start with, and you'll see people, like educated people, will maybe moan about the industries that you've gone into. In fact, I have had people moaning at me in my city because it's not high tech enough, because I've had this big farming. I don't know, I built a really nice big road, and I thought, you know what, if you're driving along here at some speed, I'd like to be driving past farmland and like some lovely views, and that kind of now dominated the actual city. I've just got this huge massive road with like farms, and it's not efficient at all. And yeah, the thing I like about this genre and about this game, and the reason I've really fallen into it, is because you can't really beat it. There is a sense of progression, and you unlock buildings as your population gets bigger, and if you do certain things, you'll get unique monuments that you can build to be like, look, I've made this type of city, and now I can do this. But really, the objectives are all things that you place yourself. Like, it really, like you say, you built two different cities there, and the second one obviously has some big disadvantages to it. But that's a personal choice, and you like a lot of games would tell you off for doing the bad thing or that not making the best city, which might be an objective. But these are all things that you end up choosing to do yourself. And I ended up restarting after about 4 hours or something, because I wasn't happy with my road layout. And I could have maybe demolished buildings and kind of fixed it, but I just wanted to start from scratch. And that's generally a good sign that a game's got me.
I think it was because, living in London, I found SimCity really fascinating just because of the fact that it did put that emphasis. I think people, as gamers, I mean, it's difficult because it doesn't give people as gamers what they want, because people want to be able to build these massive sprawling cities that are almost utopias. You want to be able to build a perfect, huge mega city. Everything's smooth, everything's nice. But as somebody who lives in cities, I found that the emphasis in SimCity of the idea of being like, yeah, you can have one place where everyone's really happy and everything's going brilliantly. But then in order to do that, the rubbish needs to go somewhere.
Yep.
So you can ship that, you can take that in lorries out to this town where maybe less educated people will live who don't earn much money to look after it. And it was the realities of the economics.
I see what you mean.
This idea of being like, if one place is perfect and everything is great, then that means somewhere else has to be less nice in order for that to subsist.
God, I hope that was their intention, because that's a brilliant message for a SimCity game to have.
I get the impression it was.
So in City Skylines, you don't have to have. So you do have more freedom in that respect. You don't have to have a town that specialises in that. But you do end up creating areas where the bad stuff happens. So even though my city is quite green, I've got like wind energy being, a key part of how I, keep the lights on everything. They're really, really noisy. So noisy, in fact, that people will start to get health problems just by living too close to them. But unfortunately, some people do have to live quite close to them, because the best place to put these turbines is really close to where my city is.
Yeah.
And you do end up making these sacrifices and just kind of convincing yourself that that's okay.
Well, that's what I kind of loved about it.
It is cool, isn't it?
I mean, I kind of do wonder whether it was intentional or not, but I hope it was intentional, because lots of people haven't got annoyed about these small cities, but I think, it's difficult because it makes it a different sort of game. It no longer becomes this sort of make city builder. It becomes something else. It becomes a kind of society simulation.
Yeah.
But I think especially in a time where we are looking at huge overcrowding and huge problems with resources in the world, having a game in which was you've run out of space, somebody's going to have to live right next to all the shit, was kind of a really interesting thing to have in a game. Again, if that was an accident, then, but if it was...
I wonder if that was a side product of the fact that they had to have these smaller cities and have them split into cities because of the multiplayer thing they were in, or if that was a reason behind it. It's a shame that we won't really know.
No, I guess not. Especially now Maxis is gone.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Maxis left by the sound of it, the lion's share of that studio.
But anyway, it's cool. It's a big city builder, and people have wanted one of them.
I wish I could get on with those games. I've tried so many times to play them games, but there's something about it.
What is it? The fact that there isn't
so obtuse to me.
an objective to start with.
Yeah. I remember, funny enough, I went to Paradox Con convention a couple of years ago, and they had a game called Cities in Motion. I think
that is actually the same dev. That's why
I thought so. They have a habit of taking the same development team, making them do the same concept, just a little fleshed out, and rebranding it and doing and putting it out. But I was playing that game, and everyone who goes to Paradox Con is there because they know Paradox games.
Right, yeah.
They know them inside out. They are hanging around on the Reddit threads for each of these games, and they're well known amongst the communities. But obviously Paradox wants some mainstream coverage as well, so they came to CVG, and I got sent to their convention. Almost everything there was just complete code to me.
So intimidating.
And the thing is, I went to play Cities in Motion. I'm sitting down, and this is a game. It's not high level, but putting buildings in places. It's literally about putting roads in places and doing it right. I was awful at it, and the worst
kind of what this is, I guess.
Yeah, the worst part was, it's a company small enough that the developers are actually at the event as well.
Oh no.
So the developer came, one of the main developers came and stood behind me and watched over my shoulder as if to see, they're basically kind of using it as a playtesting environment as well to see how well we're getting on with it. And I noticed this person standing behind me, and same person that introduced it and said, we've been working on this for years and this, that. And immediately I was like, I have no idea what to do. And if this person finds out that I'm basically a fraud, it's gonna besmirch the name of our good company. So I just found the graph with the most amount of numbers on there and just looked at it and just stroking my chin
That's really...
And then just eventually the person just walked away. It was a good 5-10 minutes.
I bet they were writing down in their notepad. Really likes graphs.
Really likes graphs.
Needs
and
more graphs.
Detailed information. I was just man, I have no idea what to do. I literally couldn't find the tool that would let me place a road. That's how obtuse it was to me. I couldn't find it in the UI. So I was just
It
like,
is always
gonna
a
stare at this
special
graph.
kind of awkwardness you have actually when you end up going to press events that you've been sent to, and the developers are clearly really passionate about their game, and it's clear. Sometimes, especially when it's a series and it's been going on for a while, and they kind of really they love it, and it's kind of heartbreaking when you're sitting down there and they're watching you play and they're trying to talk to you about it, and you're just like. You don't know how to break it to them. Just be like, dude, I don't know. I don't understand what you're talking about. I've never really heard of this game. It's very sweet that you love it so much, but I don't think I care about it.
Yeah, the first one, I first joined CVG, I think they sent me to a FIFA event, and very quickly they realised that I didn't know what I was doing because I was just slide tackling the shit out of everyone. I had no idea what I was doing, just slide tackle, red card, red card, red card, and eventually they were like, oh, okay, maybe we should get him off the... demo stations and stuff. So
somebody tried to line me up to do an interview about an F1 game once. I've lost track of how many times exactly I told them that trying to get me to interview someone about an F1 game was the worst idea in the world. In the end, I think I just had to say no. Because they were like, it's fine, you could just talk to them for 10 minutes. It's like, about what? What is wrong with you? Who do you think I am?
Weird.
I can imagine ParadoxCon being probably the worst example of that as well, because their games, I love a lot of their things very dearly, but man, do they not introduce you to them very easily.
I was so happy when they brought out this side-scrolling action game. They were like, "This is inspired by Smash Brothers." You could hear me go, "Yes!" The only person
I understand the concept.
I know how to do this.
Oh yeah, I tried Crusader Kings 2, and yeah, even after about an hour, I was like, I can't do it.
It's got better actually. I went back to it recently, and they've actually made a proper tutorial, which you wouldn't think would take as long as it has. But because of the nature of how they do those games, they've been releasing DLC on a very regular basis since the start.
I remember it was one of those
not in quite the cynical way it sounds either, but as a result, they've kind of realised that new people are starting to drift into it, and we should probably make a tutorial that doesn't crash or that explains the game.
They make a lot of good games that people who are inclined towards strategy games really, really love. And being there, that was the best part of being there. I went back 3 times, and I didn't really have much of a choice, but I always enjoyed the fact that they had such a good, passionate community, and a lot of the people that were there weren't just journalists; it was just random people from their community. And it was so good seeing that. You don't get much of that these days.
It's grim. If you're going to play Crusader Kings 2, by the way, start off as Ireland. It gives you some very clear goals to start with. You don't have to worry about European politics. It's brilliant.
That is a good bit of political advice. So, Timur, what have you been playing?
I'm going to make you regret inviting me here and say that, to be honest, I'm in a bit of a malaise at the moment. That's what everyone describes it as.
I think the game malaise is a thing.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I just feel like I'm in a fog, just going from one point to another, trying to find something that will take my fancy. I know, in the distance is Bloodborne, and that is that is just counting down towards that, and I know that's going to just clear it up entirely. I hope anyway.
I did find that game malaise was something which I've always struggled with from time to time, but it was definitely something which the symptoms began to get much worse, Doctor.
Yeah.
When after Dark Souls, I think Dark Souls was the first game that put me into a really nasty. I didn't want to play anything that wasn't Dark Souls for quite a long time. I've never been the same since.
Yeah, that's kind of a come down, but I haven't had anything that was such a high and then coming down from that's causing it. It's just something about the games that are out now just not sticking. But I guess the upside of it is that I'm very rapidly moving in between games and not really sticking around. So I played Sunset Overdrive to completion. That's kind of no, but that was pre-Malaise. That was one of the games that contributed to it, and that was after Assassin's Creed. So I played that to completion.
Oh right,
played. I'm starting to see the reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And then I played Sunset Overdrive, another open world game, and then I went to Far Cry. And
that's a lot of side objectives to do.
Far Cry, honestly, I talked about this on our podcast, but honestly, I pressed the map button, and all the icons I saw, I was like, I can't do this. And then I zoomed out. And there was even more. I was like, the whole area of the map covered in red. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I just stopped playing.
I don't know how Ubisoft have got into that now. Because it really is too much.
The worst part of it is, it's not even. There was a time when, as reviewers, we would criticize games that had side objectives or knickknacks to pick up that had no bearing on the game. We'd be like, it has no point. Why is it there? That was a genuine down point.
Yeah.
I've reached the point where Ubisoft, their knickknacks and the stuff they put on the side actually impact the game. So it's like you collect this amount of things and then you've got this upgrade waiting for you. I hate that. I hate that there's core parts of the game that are locked away in these like treasure chests and stuff. I used to be able to, I can't ignore them now. And as someone who's paid 40 quid for a game, it's kind of, I'm one of those people that it'll always have this little voice in my head saying you paid £40 for this game and you're actively ignoring content that should be there and you should be experiencing, and it just plays on my mind.
Oh yeah.
And I've taken that game out, decided I'm not playing that game, I don't want it, it's too much, and then put it back in, being like,
I have the same thing of being like, when I see it all, when I see all the stuff to do, I have this thing of being like, I feel like I need to do all of it, and if I decide that I can't do all of it, I just don't play the game.
Yeah.
It almost killed Dragon Age Inquisition for me. I after the first area, I told myself that I'd just stop trying to 100% things, and that you can see very clearly it's influenced by Ubisoft or that kind of take on how world games need to be done, because it's these meaningless side quests, the ones that don't have a story to tell, don't have a point to them other than this is a good way of, you know, keeping players engaged, and, you know, they feel like they should. They bought an open world game. They feel like they deserve a certain, you know, we need to be able to say there's 100 hours of content here. I think it was 200 with Dragon Age actually. And yeah, as a result, it feels almost like computer generated side quests. Like there's so few of them had any heart to them, and I feel that's come from games like the big Ubisoft names.
Yeah, I was playing it, and every time I took it out and said I'm not playing it, inevitably I would come back and try it again. And that game is really, really intense, and it really gets on your back about distracting you from the main objective. Not even just with stuff like there's a chest here, but with animals attacking you. And it's one of the most distressing, if you're the kind of person who gets overwhelmed easily, which I'm not, but in my current fragile Malaise state, I am kind of like, I'm liable to snap any moment. That game will just push you over the edge, because I'm trying to get from point A to point B. The driving is terrible. You jump in a car and you want to drive, and if you're driving manually, you want to take a shortcut or something. The moment you go off the road, you'll hit a tree, and then you damage yourself, and then your car's totaled, and then you get out and walk, and some animal will attack you out of nowhere. By the time you got to your objective, you're out of ammo, you've got like no health, and then what's waiting for you? Like the mission that did it for me was like burn the opium field, which is go into this like fortress kind of thing, and it was a literal army waiting for me. One man, I was playing it on my own. And the moment I crossed a threshold into the actual game, the mission area, there was a guy with mortars that just knew exactly where I was and was just shelling me. And honestly, I felt like I was in a war. I was like, it was so overwhelming. I was like, I can't do this. I just took it out. I haven't put it back in since, and I moved on to Alien Isolation, which is almost as bad. It is.
This is too stressful.
I was like, okay, I'll play a stealth game, nice pacing, you know, every now and then the alien will come and he'll try and tickle me and that kind of thing, and, you know, I'll hide in a vent for a little while and come back and use my emotion track. No, the alien does not behave like that at all. So all this, I've talked about this again before, but it's like all this time going into it, they're like, the alien's really intelligent, it behaves like a predator. Bullshit. It does not behave like a predator. It comes down a vent, it knows you're there, but it can't attack you until you do something stupid to trip up and activate his attacking patterns now. So instead of just behaving like an actual predator where it jumps in, searches an area, realizes the area is clear, and then moves on. No, it jumps in, it'll walk up and down the corridor, hang around outside of the room. It knows you're there, it gravitates towards you, it will jump up a vent and then wait for you to come out of your locker, and it will jump down again, and then you've got to get back in the locker until you actually make a mistake to trigger it. It's just hanging around. It's just there, which is so annoying. And it's one of those games where I was in a locker waiting for it to just move on, and it wouldn't. It was like 20 minutes. And I was like, what am I doing? I can feel the time just wasting. I'm literally wasting my time playing this game. And it's annoying because it's the rest of the game, the working Joes and everyone else who's on the space station, they behave and they act like traditional stealth game characters. Like they have a kind of set routine. They follow patterns in certain ways. They're a little more dynamic, where if they see something off in the distance that is technically outside of their vision cone, Metal Gear Solid terms, but they'll investigate it. It's got just enough dynamic elements to it to make you feel like it's interesting. But the alien, it just ignores all of that. It jumps out. It's a one-hit kill kind of enemy where if it sees you, you're dead. There's no escaping it. But then it behaves in really unnatural ways. Like I said, just patrolling up and down corridors, just waiting for you to mess up until it eventually gets bored or just something triggers it to go away. That element of it, I just really disliked, and I just gave up on that as well.
I'd be interested to find out. I don't think we will for quite a while. Like how exactly that system works, because they did talk about it being, acting naturally, and that it wasn't doing exactly what you've just described. I do feel like it's much more scripted than.
Yeah, I think I think that
we thought it might be, but
I think there's two parts of it. There's areas which are scripted where the alien will always appear, and then there's areas outside of that which are, if you make a lot of noise, then it will appear.
That makes sense, right? Like,
yeah. I'm in a scripted point where it will appear. It's always going to be there. So that's kind of emphasizing all the issues that I have with it, because it's waiting for me to move on, but at the same time, it's standing in front of the exit. There's points where the door I need is behind him, and he's just hanging around waiting for you. And it's not like you can just run through the door. You got to run up there, type in a code, and it does that thing where it's got old architecture and old engineering. So the door needs to move pistons around and open. By the time that's happened, the xenomorphs found you and eaten you. It's done. But I've not reached that. That was too much. It pushed me over the edge. So I was like, I can't deal with this either.
So where did this start? It started with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Was that from that to
Assassin's Creed was annoying.
Assassin's Creed, a few too many side quests. So you played Far Cry.
Yeah.
Too intense.
Pretty stressful.
This is the issue. This is the problem with buying loads of games in franchises, or buying games just as soon as they come out, day one. Because I'm that kind of person where I get caught up in the hype, and if I feel like deep down I know a game's going to be interesting or good, I'll buy it, even if I've not read any reviews. So Assassins, I'm a fan of the series, so I was in there day one. Same with Far Cry, I enjoyed the last game. Alien, a new interesting Alien game that's getting good reviews. I bought them all at the same time. They were within a week of each other. That was a mistake. If I had maybe taken them, pasted it, and
I do know
spread
what
them
you mean
out.
about the intensity of action games generally, though. I think first-person games and third-person games all share that in common.
Yeah,
it's like I keep meaning to go back and play Shadow of Mordor, and I'm gonna do it. I will, because it's like I know it's good. It won an award the GDC last week, and I met one of the guys who worked on the AI for it. And it's
they're at BAFTAs tonight, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're probably at the BAFTAs.
They're probably going to win that.
And I know it's really good, but the thing is, I just find myself these days, for the same reason as you, being like, just sometimes playing games like that can be a bit stressful.
Yeah.
Can be in itself a bit like... And that's why they're exciting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes life is exciting enough. And you just chill out. Yeah. I quite enjoy the just turn-based games. Just press space bar, sit down, have a cup of tea.
Yeah,
exactly. And the games that I have moved on to and I'm kind of feeling more comfortable playing are surprisingly games that sound like they should be triggering the same emotions in me, like RPG grinding kind of things. I've been playing Marvel Heroes 2015. It's a free-to-play kind of Diablo clone kind of game, available on Steam, and it's one of those games where right from the outset I felt comfortable with it, because it is Diablo skinned in a Marvel universe, and it's really fun because I can just put on a podcast and I feel like I'm doing multiple things at once. I feel like I'm making progress in listening to podcasts and playing a game, and it's quite a fun game. I
was doing the same thing with Destiny.
Yeah,
the thing is that's why I resonated with Destiny so much, was it was like an action game, but it wasn't really very intense. You could make it intense if you want to, but mostly you could just zone out.
Yeah,
and that's weirdly rare these days.
Yeah.
I like being able to zone out and play video games, and I can't with stuff and I think a lot of it does come down to the crazy map stuff in games like Far Cry and stuff. I just want to zone out, go around the jungle with a gun. But then it's you've got to keep looking at what you're doing. Where are you going? You're going the right way. You've driven down the wrong road. You're miles on the wrong road. And there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
That it requires a lot of your attention.
Marvel Heroes 2015, for anyone who's interested in it, is quite good. It's the original game that they released. I remember getting panned pretty badly because it wasn't very good.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they relaunched it as 2015. They added that onto the end. And it is, from what I've played, I didn't play the original enough to provide a detailed critical analysis of what was bad about it. Right. But the game that I'm playing now, it's really fun. It's, you know how when you launched Diablo and it was you had these different classes and each played slightly differently and you kind of had fun experimenting with each one. Imagine that spread across the many hundreds of Marvel characters there are. There's loads and loads and loads of Marvel characters. Each of them plays a little different.
I suppose having some interest in Marvel is probably...
Yeah, it does, it does, it does. The great thing about it is they've done a lot of smart things. I imagine this is one of the things that they introduced is when you start the game, I remember when it first came out, you picked the hero and that was it. You were kind of screwed if turns out you didn't like that character. What they do now is they give you a selection of starting heroes and they allow you to take each one up to level 10, and then you can lock in which one you want to stick with, and then carry on from level 10 from there. And then if you like other characters, you can buy them or sample them as you go along. And the fun thing about it is it's not stingy with loot. It's like every enemy you beat up is always dropping something cool, like loot-wise. And if you don't like the loot, you just give it into the merchant, and all that does is it makes the merchant more likely to give you better deals or get in better items and stuff like that. And I've been doing mainly, the story's a bit hokey, but it's Marvel games. They're always a bit weird. But I've just been doing this one repeatable quest, which is a Manhattan Patrol quest, which you go into the main area. It's just massive, this large area, mobs of enemies just constantly. And there's a timer, 5-minute timer that just keeps going round and round. And when it reaches the end of it, an event happens. Like every 5 minutes, something happens. So you just hang around killing mobs of enemies, just clicking on them and they die. When the 5 minutes is done, sentinels might just fall from the sky and you get to fight these sentinels for a while. You wipe them out, carry on, you've got maybe 3 minutes left. Doctor Doom has appeared, run over and fight him, and other heroes might jump in, and you got AI characters running around. Really, really fun, just clicky, collect stuff and see cool stuff happen kind of game. But it's kind of helping ease the malaise somewhat. But yeah, I'm enjoying that quite a bit. I recommend it. Yeah, it is.
I really had a great time with Path of Exile when that was out, That was another kind of free-to-play Diablo-like. And again, I was just really impressed with how generous it was with what you got for nothing. It didn't feel like you were being dicked on at any stage. It didn't feel like it was hey, you having fun? Here's the shop.
Yeah, welcome.
Buy these things, or you will never have fun ever again. Yeah.
I'm kind of balancing that with Monster Hunter 4, which is the complete opposite, where it's really, really stingy with what it gives you, but in that you're not getting stuff for free. You need to really work for what you want, which is really fun. And I don't know, but I dipped in and out of Monster Hunter, but my younger brother, he's savant at Monster Hunter. He's been playing hundreds of hours each one and knows it inside out. And having someone who knows the games inside out to take you around and show you the ins and outs and show you the cool tricks, and it's such a different experience. It's so much more fun.
There's tons of stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like this one has been talked about a little bit more in circles that wouldn't usually talk about Monster Hunter. Is there something about this particular version that
I think
encourages that?
The way it's formatted in terms of quests and stuff it's just easier to get into. Yeah. I think the tutorials, I think the main thing that helps is every weapon now has a tutorial.
Yeah.
So you pick up a weapon, if it's the new one, the insect glaive, and you go into an arena thing and it'll show you. And for the most part, the control text that they just give you is the same for each weapons, and they're just explaining what's different about the properties of the attack, and that helps a lot.
Yeah,
way more.
It's a lot better with introducing new players, and I think also I get the impression that in the early stages of the game it's a lot less stingy with loot, which means that in the first one I remember I had to kill great jaggies loads of times just to get a suit of armor. In the early stages, you kill a monster 3 times, you could probably make a full set of armor.
Yeah.
So it basically means quite quickly you get the sense of you're getting stuff done. And it's interesting, I'm starting to get I'm not even in the high rank yet, I'm not even the second layer of the 3 layers of difficulty. But I found that I like the fact that you sort of go, well, I just collect armor sets. I've got 8 different sets of armor now.
Yeah.
And I find myself thinking, is there any point doing this before you got to the next difficulty level? And it's well, yeah, because actually you're grinding in a way, but then I've also realised that I'm actually innately just getting better at learning the monsters, and monsters that used to be killing me repeatedly, I'm now just without thinking, just dodging their attacks at the right time in the right way, and it's oh shit,
I've learned something.
I'm getting good at this game.
It's equivalent to playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So the way you're learning the tells for all the fighters in that boxing game, it's the monsters. You're learning them, even if you're getting beaten by him constantly, you're learning, when he's doing this, type of roar, it means he's trying to call other monsters to him, which means I need to do this. But in terms of collecting armor, I think the draw for me of that is something that Joe Screbbles, who's also been on this podcast, wrote for an article about for Eurogamer. It's about getting into the multiplayer lobby and showing off what you've got to your friends. Because I haven't done that yet. But when I got into a lobby with my younger brother, and he's got this badass, like pure black armor and looks like a cane from Final Fantasy. I was like, man, that looks awesome. I want that thing. That was it. That's what triggers you to be like, I need to keep doing this.
I'm hearing a lot of the reasons I used to play World of Warcraft. I've actually been having a similar conversation with Wes from Eurogamer, who is really big into Destiny. And just talking about, like, we mentioned grinding earlier, or the idea of grinding, or repeating something with the feeling that it's worth your time. It's actually, if it's handled right, it can be incredibly satisfying. And as you mentioned as well before, it can also means you can do other things at the same time. You can listen to a podcast. In fact, some people might well be grinding in something right now. Hello, hi. And yeah, like it definitely comes down to different games handling that idea better than others. But for such a terribly boring gameplay idea, grinding can be brilliant. Like I remember doing it, like getting into a certain rhythm, and it was just relaxing, which is
that's the thing I'm realising with Monster Hunter. It's nice the fact that people say, sometimes you've got to kill a monster loads of times to get all the stuff you need for the armour. It just doesn't feel like a grind, because at first sometimes it does, but then you realise actually in the process of fighting the same monster 6 times in a row, just try and get this one specific rare drop that you need by cutting off its tail, and then that's quite hard to do in itself. You realise you're learning how to fight it better. You're getting better at fighting it. It means that you're going to need that. So actually you're not... Grinding always suggests that somehow the process is pointless. It's like there's nothing there. There's nothing you're getting out of it other than eventually getting the items that you need, and it's just a kind of like a worthless waste of your time that it has to do it to pad it out. But it's kind of nice in a game like Monster Hunter because there's so much to learn. You have this sense of being like, it feels sometimes to a layman or a newcomer that you're being forced to do something again and again and again.
Just to pad it out, right?
But actually you're not. Like you're learning. And it's when I think I was fighting as an ogre. And they're basically like, it's like an electric dragon dog thing. And they're really vicious and really nasty. And it just kept wiping me out. But now it's like, I can take them on really easily. Like,
that's one too many things. Either have an electric dog, a dragon dog, an electric dragon.
Honestly, Monster has more dragons.
There's something amazing. I fought something which is like a monkey lemur thing. And it looks really cool.
That's
yeah, that's the one. What I like about actually playing it is the pacing of the actual combat. It feels like it's a proper Capcom thing where it feels like, in the same way that you might play a grappling character in Street Fighter like Zangief, you have to be very... Unlike someone like Ryu or Ken, where you can just overwhelm with fireballs and dragon punches and then hurricane kicks, and eventually you will chip away enough to take away the health. With a character like Zangief, every move needs to have a purpose, and it needs to be thought out and carefully timed, and that's what's kind of really great about Monster Hunter's combat. It feels like they had a character who was quick and energetic and could take out monsters quickly, and then what they started doing was started tying weights to it. And trying to make you feel like when the person playing presses a button, they need to know why they're doing it, when they're doing it, and it needs to be perfect. And what I love is how monster to monster that changes. So you're constantly you're never comfortable in the combat. You might be comfortable with using your weapon. You might know the range on it or how long it takes to sheath, or the special techniques that you can do. But every monster that appears, it makes you rethink that, and it's really, really interesting. I really enjoy that.
The way that it basically means that for each of the weapon sets, for example, you get a weapon and you learn how to do the combo with that weapon, and it's like maybe like Y A Y or whatever, and then you can learn how to chain together things and combos. But then it's like you know how to do your combo. When you do it is another thing, because if you find yourself in a position of just running up to a monster and then hitting your combo buttons, you're probably going to die, because it becomes this thing of, usually with a weapon, like when you actually get to pull off a full combo, it's like a little special treat. It's like you go, oh, he's done this. I've got like a second.
And there's a moment just beforehand where you're just frantically trying to align yourself properly, because if you're not perfectly aligned, as that monster's getting up from its downed animation, it's going to throw your combo off completely, and you're just going to be hitting air.
Or even just as simple as sometimes it'll be like you have to line it up properly, because if you hit this soft bit of flesh here, it will do loads of damage. But if you hit it just like a few feet to the left or the right, you'll hit like plating armor, which will bounce your sword off and break your combo.
Right.
It's really great.
It's
a slow progression of perfection, and you feel like a boss when you
maybe that's the difference. The fact that it allows you to show off a little bit whilst you're doing that. You have these moments where you go, oh, that was quite cool what I just did there. It makes the grind feel different because, certain RPGs will treat the word grind or the idea behind that in terms of like, right, you've got this much health, they've got that much, you just keep pressing this certain attack until you've beaten that one.
Yeah.
And that's it. You just repeat that process.
I think it's the sense of mastery you can get. I think with some games I like action games like Devil May Cry and stuff, but I always get the sense that in a lot of, especially the old school Japanese design ones, like Bayonetta and things, the sensation of mastery comes with a high level of skill as well. You have to actually practice and you have to be technically very good at doing things very quickly.
And it will still become a rhythm, I guess, but yeah, there is the fact there's an element of skill there. Yeah.
It's a lot harder to achieve that sense of mastery, and it's a frantic sense of mastery that you can't appreciate until afterwards. Whereas Monster Hunter, because it's a bit more slow and a bit more considered, and when you're doing everything right, it's very much just a case of this sort of careful rhythm of things, and you just feel like the mastery is a bit more zen in a weird way. Yeah. When you first start fighting a monster in Monster Hunter, the first few times you get wiped, it's intense. It's like you proper some moments are like heart in your chest, but once you understand how to fight these monsters, it's very calm, and it's very just a very calm method of approaching it, and it's quite relaxing. It's weird.
Having said that, when you have a bunch of people playing multiplayer, it can feel like a crazy kind of fight where everyone's running away from this monster, and then you're shouting commands at each other, like running now to attack to someone while someone else is kind of healing, and then you might remember halfway through that the guy who was supposed to paintball the monster forgot to paintball the monster, and it's run away, and you have no idea where on the map it is, and you've got to split up and try and find where it's, because when it runs after you do enough damage to a monster, it will run off to a different part of the map, and it's like loading screen in between them. Yeah, and if you
I found it,
and then you've got to like try and hold your ground for long enough until your friends get together, and it can be kind of chaotic and fun in the same way that something like Left 4 Dead gets crazy when someone accidentally shoots the witch and it's just everything's going mad and you're trying to make sense of it at once. That's the kind of like cool multiplayer element.
I really
of it.
want to play more of the multiplayer. I really want to play.
It makes me sad that they don't have a big screen version of it, like in the same way that Try is out. But I would love to see a massive, like nicely detailed version of it on my Wii U. But it's a shame. It's still worth playing on the 3DS, though.
It's very
undoubtedly.
Good. It is very good. I'm still playing it. I lost interest in 3 after probably 20 hours. I'm about 50 hours into 4. And I'm still just enjoying picking it up.
Yeah, I think my younger brothers are about 150 or something.
It's nice to say there's a pleasant grind to it, and it means that thing of being like, you can just play it for like 20 minutes. So you can play it when you're watching TV. You can be like, I'm going to get a suit of this armour. Because I just like collecting the armour suits.
Yeah.
I look really cool.
I grind for armour on my train trips to work and back, and then when I'm at home, I'll attempt a new mission.
Yeah.
And then if I
That's
complete the mission,
great mix.
If I complete the mission, and there's always subquests, I'll do a subquest on the way to work and then a grind on the way back, and it's like you're getting a nice mix of stuff.
Yeah, because there's a ton of preparation. Like I've got a mission at the moment I need to do where I need to kill 2 like electric dragon things, and it's like I didn't have any armor with good electricity resistance, so I'm like, right, well I'm going to get a set of Zenogre armor which has really good electricity, and I'm like, also I need to get 5 like thunder resistant gems. What do I need for that? And so it means I've had this process. It's probably taken me about 2.5 hours to get all the things I need.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that mission yet, but I know the next time I try it, it will be a piece of piss.
I love the idea that you can like build towards that on your commute to work or whatever, and then there's a nice little payoff when you get back home. It's like, right, now let's play the game properly. Right? That's actually
exactly.
That's great. I don't know many games that can manage that.
I'm just looking forward to playing with my little brother again because I love playing it with him, and it's just a thing of like we both split off. And we both play through the single player stuff, and we collect the things we want to collect. We get the items we want to get, and then we go and play. We show off our armors and show off our swords, and
exactly, yeah. And if you're playing at the same pace, where like you might be aiming for one type of armor to exploit a certain weakness, while someone else is like, oh, I'll get this type of armor, so it'll make it easier for you to do this X thing, while I draw attention away, and I've got a tanky armor, so I can do this, and you can do the electricity damage or something like that. It's really fun. It's really cool.
Well, there's another extended advert for Monster
Hunter. It's a good game, man.
We actually think it might be the last episode or the episode 4, which was just
Keza did one, right?
No, I still stand by it. I still
It's a great game. Yeah, it's a great game.
I'll very quickly mention a couple of things I've played recently before we wrap up. When I was at GDC last week, I didn't play many games because I was doing other stuff. But I did.
You're playing board games, right?
I was playing board games,
Those are games?
I was there with Shop Sit Down.
Count?
Of course they are. Of course they are. We were playing board games with people, and we were showcasing why board games are interesting and stuff. One game I did play, which was prototype but being kickstarted soon, is an incredible game called Fabulous Beasts. And it's very difficult to describe this. I'd recommend looking it up. it's fabulousbeasts.com. But the way I describe this game is basically, you know, when you have a sci-fi show like Star Trek or something, or like whatever, and you have a shot and it cuts to a bar or something, or it cuts to like a lounge, and two of the characters are just finished playing a very complicated futuristic game, which is like 3D and layered and holographic, and one of the characters goes, an excellent move, and then they stand up and walk away from the game. You never really see them playing the game, you just see the final move. And the reason for that is because it's not a real game. Because it looks ludicrous, and it is ludicrous because it's not real.
It's like chess that plays on like 4 layers or something like that.
So when I saw somebody playing this, it was basically, it just doesn't look real. It has this weird podium with then all of these different abstract, colourful shapes all piled on top of each other in a crazy...
Are you doing a physical thing here?
It's a physical game. And so you've got all these weird wooden shapes that are like all different colours and all weird shapes, all stacked on top of each other like some crazy abstract Jenga.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And you look at it and you watch as somebody takes this incredibly strange shaped piece and balances it, and you just go, what the fuck?
Their opponent goes, aha, excellent move.
And then walks away.
And then you listen to people talking about playing this, and you listen to what people say. They go, that's a mutation, which means my foxes are now moving to the sky. And you just go, what the fuck is this? It just doesn't look real. It looks like it's all an elaborate joke.
Sounds like the most GDC game I've heard.
Well, I mean, the guy who's demoing it, I think he's going to be demoing it around the UK and stuff. It may even appear at... You might even bump into a Res. I don't even know. But anyway, it's crazy. But then the way it works is it's basically a cross between Jenga and Skylanders in a weird way. Because what you do is you have this little stand, and this little stand has a chip reader in it, and all the pieces have a chip in it. And the game itself kind of runs on an iPad. So what happens is you pick up a piece, and it's like you have these 3 weird, increasingly large things, and they're beasts. You have the beasts, and you have 3 fish-shaped things. They're the fish. And the birds. And you pick up a small beast and you tap it on the thing and it goes, that's a small beast. And then you place it and you have to balance it on the thing. And then the idea is then you've just added an animal to an ecosystem. So basically it's like a crazy Jenga version of Viva Pinata, of being like, you've put some small beasts.
And that's represented on the iPad,
and then and then you go, well, it's my go now, and you tap on like a larger bird, and then you go, well, I'm going to put this bird, and then you stack it on top of the thing, and you go, I'm going to put this bird in the same area, and these birds are going to eat your beasts.
So are you creating a food chain then? Or
so you create a food chain, but then you can be like, I'm going to put this weird piece on. It's going to crossbreed the fish with the birds and create this weird new animal that's a cross between like tiny fish and hawks or something. And then it becomes this weird thing of being, I'm going to cannibalize your thing, and it's insane. It's genuinely insane. But I was playing it with Kez McDonald. Of also Daft Souls, and it was just this hilarious thing if somebody came over and suddenly it was like within 20 minutes the shoe was on the other foot, and I said, well, I think I'm going to use the love piece to increase the population size of my fish, or maybe I should cannibalize the population of this to stop your food chain to the squids that have been crossbred with the lions.
I do the second one. The second one sounds like something you need to do immediately.
Can I migrate my mice from the land to the sea? And I was like, yes, that's a good idea. And it just being this weird, like vaguely feels collaborative because it feels like you're working together to make an ecosystem. But at the same time, you want to be the person who, with the ownership of the animals, that are doing best in the ecosystem. So we end up,
what's the how do you win? What's the kind of?
It's a points based thing. So it's kind of complex, but actually quite simple in the way it's like, let's just say you've got like 8 mice or whatever,
right?
And then it means you get some points for that. But then the player above you has got like slightly bigger creatures that are living off the mice, because they're bigger creatures. They get more points for that.
Okay.
But then the number of points they get for that, they can only have, it's capped because the population of the thing eating the thing below
is based on the mice.
Is based on the mice.
That's cool.
Which means that you have this thing of like, if say the 2 things on the food chain above your mice are both owned by the other player, then you can purposefully try and diminish the population of your mice, because then it will shrink.
That sounds excellent, because it means that your earlier turns remain important. Like, instead of just like you replacing with the next
basically, I mean,
weird collection of animals.
The thing that's clever about it is basically an iPad game. It's basically an iPad game to do with animal populations and to do with trying to manipulate an ecosystem to get the most points. It's basically like a board game about that. But then the simple thing is of like imagine having a card game or something that does that, but every time you want to play a card, whether it's adding an animal or doing something or whatever, you then have a specifically shaped piece, physical piece, that you then have to balance onto an increasingly dodgy tower.
Is there like a negative effect if can the Jenga tower collapse?
Yeah, if it collapses, then you lose points. And then
amazing, that's cool.
So, and then some of the pieces, like the best pieces, are really weird shapes. You're just like, how the fuck do I balance this on something? And also the fact that you've got special pieces that are like one-off. So if the other player uses it, then you can't use it in that game because it's already on the the tower. So it becomes this thing of like strategically trying to pick which piece to use and what they might want to use.
Sure.
And it feels like it quickly becomes just a game that you're playing. But when you watch people play, it's just like this.
Did you say this would come from Kickstarter, right?
Yeah,
I'm interested to see the pitch video because those are often like the purpose of those videos. They have to be quite brief and quite very clearly get across the idea of what the game's about.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see how that happens because it does sound complex.
Basically it will come across like quizzle sticks. It will be like, is this a joke?
I guess it's just like show a game working, right? Or like talk through a game as it's happening. That's tough.
It's going to seem like, remember when Joey and Chandler made up their rubbish like board game and they just play, and they're playing the cups. That's what it's called. Right. They're trying to get Joey to get all that money.
I'm just going to show you briefly what it looks like.
Right. Okay. I've got a strange idea. I mean, searching the term "fabulous beast" on Google is going to be. I mean, I saw quite an attractive-looking dog.
It's going to be like pictures of buff.
It's actually
fantastic, not fabulous.
Very difficult to find on.
No, fantastic beasts and where to find them is a J.K. Rowling thing. The SEO on this is not as good as it could be.
Yeah,
it does sound like a Harry Potter kind of game. Isn't it?
Let's have a look so we can find it. No, this is. It's. Oh, good lord! So.
It might be
Play Fabulous Beasts.
Play Fabulous Beast.
Okay, cool.
Googling this is not enough.
Wow!
This is what it looks like. See, I'm just to show you the live reaction.
I hope that some people will be searching for it. Yeah. That
looks crazy.
That's amazing.
That is incredible.
That's like the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
You expect it to be some uniformity between certain amount of pieces just to create some sort of foundation.
It's
or something.
bonkers.
It's just every piece looks like a weird, different kind of shape.
It's genuinely mad, and you can see the variety of shapes and sizes and things. It's mad. It's I go as far to say it's mental, but in a brilliant way. It's incredible. And I couldn't work out when I was playing it if it was necessarily a very, very good game or not. And it was still quite early. It was a very early prototype. There's still a lot of ideas in terms of the design of the iPad game. It felt a little complex to me. It felt like it could do with a bit more refining. But it also felt like they knew that.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep an eye on it. It probably will be on Kickstarter sometime. And it's the sort of thing that it may be worth keeping an eye on just as the weirdest curio you can possibly have. If you have that on your coffee table when friends come around for coffee... They'll think you're like
brilliant.
A space scientist. So
that's kind of scientist.
Was a kind of a hybrid between a board game and a physical game, which I think we'll see a lot more of in the next few years.
Yeah.
And the second thing I played, which I thought was very cool, was a game called Extreme Exorcism.
Which you also searched for on Google before, which was a terrible idea. Why would you ever do that? Fabulous Beasts and Extreme Exorcism.
This was a video game which I thought was really interesting, just because it was a very clever approach to a simple problem of how do you make AI enemies in games, and it's a pain. What it does basically is it's a little like a little simple side-scrolling platform shooty thing in an arena 2D arena shooter platformer. Really simple. But the way it works is basically you kill a ghost, and then when you kill a ghost, you start the level again. But this time,
you're the ghost.
You are the ghost.
I think I might have heard this. Yeah,
you might have seen it. And then it basically means that then exactly what you did last turn is the AI. And then when it gets to the end, it just reverses and goes back and then keeps doing it in loop. But then it means you go and then you kill that ghost. Then it starts again, and there's two ghosts. Brilliant. And now you did the first time and the second time. And it keeps ramping up until you've got I think there's 10 rounds. So potentially there were 9 ghosts in the last round. But then what happens, it's really clever, is you do have the ability to get an exorcism power, which basically is a small area of effect attack. And if you manage to get a feel for where the ghosts are going to be in one place, you can use it there, and it means that if all the ghosts that touch that area then are wiped out from all future rounds. So that means you can actually Or if you have one really troublesome ghost that you've created,
Yeah.
then you can get rid of it. But it's lovely because it is a really interesting idea that completely removes the whole problem of how do you make enemies. You just go, well, you don't. You allow yourself to be the enemy. But also there's this thing of like when you miss a shot, rather than being like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm useless, it means like...
I was about to say, did you find that you started trying to cheat it and make rubbish ghosts? Like, try and...
Well, yeah, no, the idea is you've got to kill all the ghosts quickly and simply. And so it means you've basically got to be like, okay, well, you want to fire as minimal shots as possible, because every time you fire a shot that doesn't hit a ghost, it just means that for all future rounds, there's going to be bullets flying around. So I had a few ones where I kept missing, and I was like, bang, 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 bang. I was like, oh no! Like, it just now means that I have to remember to avoid that area at the start, because there's going to be loads of bullets. And it also means that you start to get, like, you want to go for the low-fi weapons. Like, you can get, like, really, like, short-range melee weapons. You want to use them. Because then, like, the problem is sometimes you pick up a rocket launcher and you're like, oh, fucking cool, a rocket launcher. But then it means that for every rocket you fire, in each subsequent round, that ghost is going to fire a rocket at the same time. And it means it's like, it becomes this really interesting thing. It really appealed to me in that idea of like, you know, when you get really into a game and you're trying to do a score attack thing of trying to just refine everything as much as possible. Sure. Especially in terms of, I find in score attack games, of trying to refine your early game and just making everything like,
it's the same, but for different reasons. Right?
It's like Super Time Force, the way you just want to save 1 second or try something different just to see if you can make it a little easier the next time you do it.
Yeah. And so it has this thing of like when you manage to jump down to the bottom floor and like pull one shot of the pistol and take out the ghost in one clean thing, you're like, yes! Like, it's really nice. You want to just keep that up, but then when you start firing rockets, and at one point I fired 3 rockets and missed every one, I was just like, my head just dropped. It was just like, oh god.
I love the idea of playing as the ghost and trying to always keep a mind on what you were doing when you were playing as the normal, you know, the main character, being like, oh shit, what was I doing next?
It kind of becomes impossible to track after a while because they keep looping and they're looping at different speeds because each run is different.
Well, yeah, and that's good because otherwise it would be, you need it to get confusing. That's part of the pleasure of it, I guess. It reminds me of, do you remember a game that you and I played called Isochronous, which was like a turn-based strategy game, multiplayer, like 1v1, and each turn both players would select a soldier, do their move, and then during the next turn, those soldiers would exist and would be doing exactly what you did the turn before. You're trying to counteract, like, you know, what has worked for the other player. I was really good. I don't think that ever came to fruition, but I think that's such an interesting idea. Bringing in past attempts of what you've done in the game.
It was really cool. It was like, I remember, because then you'd introduce a soldier who'd run in and beat up my wizard. Yeah. And then it'd be like, the wizard would die before he got to anything good. But then
which is the end of the game, but the next turn you have a chance to try and stop that from happening.
Add an archer in, and your archer would shoot the guy before he got to the wizard and stuff. And it was a nice layering of, it needed work. But that was kind of more complex. This is a simpler idea, but it just immediately works really well. It's a really cool art style. And I think it's coming to PS4 this year.
Oh, cool.
As an indie title.
They do love the indies, as they keep telling us.
Yeah. And I played a bunch of little things, and there was some good stuff, and I'm sure I'll talk about some of the other things in more detail once I've played more of them. But those were 2 things that I briefly had to go on at the show that I just sort of thought, they both really impressed me in different reasons for just being either like a bit mad or just quite elegant.
How does GDC work in that respect? Are there people showing off games like traditional, like show format? Because I get the impression that it's just people running around pitching games to each other, and this weird kind of maelstrom of new ideas.
It was a fascinating show to attend, actually, and if you are interested in generally what GDC is like and what it was like this year, I wrote a piece for Vice, which you can read if you go like Vice's games section. I can't remember exactly what it is. It shouldn't be too hard to find. If you really can't find it, just bug me on Twitter. I'll find it. It's called
Searching for Hope or something.
It was called Hunting for Hope.
Hunting for Hope.
So if you Google Hunting for Hope GDC, you should be able to find it. But it was just about, basically, I was going to GDC just trying to regain some hope in the games industry, which I did manage to. But it's a fascinating spread of things going on. You've got you've got a bunch of coders quite conservatively dressed, all making jokes about like polygon counts, and then you've also got like kind of crazy young San Francisco or LA based indies who are all being showing off their work to each other on laptops. It's quite chilled, but it was. I think the thing I really like most about it is the fact that there is very much no sense of it being a PR or marketing based thing.
Excellent.
Like, there was some, even on the expo floor, there was a bit more of that, but it was more like recruitment and stuff. It was more like, it felt like more like, hey, Xbox, why don't you come work for Xbox?
Yeah.
Like, rather than being like, Xbox, got some cool games, check out our games. And so it felt very much like, weirdly like, I don't know, like there was a big VR presence.
Yeah, right.
This year. But again, it felt like it wasn't specifically aimed at press because there aren't that many press.
Yeah, it's almost like it would be naive to say that the press are kind of intruding on it because there are definitely parts of GDC that want coverage from it, particularly the VR stuff. But yeah, I love that they're not the focus.
Coverage is you get the impression that like a big part of the reason there is because they're trying to, it's for show, Oculus and Sony's Morpheus, they all want to be like, our VR is the best. Yeah. But also they just want people developing it for it.
Yeah,
they want to be like, they want to get developers walking away from it being like, we've got to make a game for Oculus Rift or we've got to make a game for
Valve will be the
VR,
because they do need to pitch it, don't they? That is like, first proper showing.
And it's a shame I didn't manage to have a go on Valve's VR thing, but I've heard that it was very, very impressive.
I've heard something about it, like understanding the layout of the room you're in and giving some kind of subtle hints as to...
I think you get some sort of map thing with it.
It basically does a holodeck style thing, so I think it uses lasers to map out your room a bit, and then it means that...
You said lasers, I'm in. Let's do it.
I think the way it works is it means that if you're walking towards a wall, then it will start to do that subtle kind of like mesh almost, so like as you get closer to just physically show you where your bounds are.
Yeah.
Again, though, the whole problem with this is apparently, like, for it to work properly, you need at least
good lighting,
like
right?
3 meters by 4 meters of space.
Oh,
and it's like, who the fuck has got that in England?
It's like, it's like less so now, but the first version of Kinect was like you needed a large
it's the same
space
problem.
to play
it's
that
like you
properly.
need a room for it.
It's got a haptic feedback as well, doesn't it? So it knows what the thing you're interacting with and how it should feel on your hand and changes it based on what you're currently interacting with.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it's really impressive. I got to have a go on the Oculus setup they had at GDC, and I was actually really impressed with how much that had come along, and just in terms of fidelity and smoothness. And again, they had because it had the kind of camera mapping thing, it was able to detect slight movement as well.
Right.
So it means you could like kneel down and stuff, which meant that was really cool. Being able to like at one point there was this little river and some flowers, and it was all nice. Just being able to like kneel down and look at the flowers.
Right.
That was really quite something. And something which I hadn't clocked about VR, which I think is actually one of the most exciting things gameplay wise.
Completely agree.
Is audio. It's the fact that the new headsets for all of them, I think, have like headphones on them.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I think that's something we've never really thought about in games, right? In terms of the idea of how do you get players... If you made a game being like, we want our games to be played with headphones, there are people who do that, but they're always like on an iPad or handheld thing, and it'll say, you need to play this with headphones at the start, right? But a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people aren't interested in games where you have to wear headphones, and you can never really, unless that is specifically what your game is about, design a game
because you can't guarantee that people
with the premise that they'll do it. Especially, like it's that thing of being like, guarantee people may well have a HD screen, but not headphones. And what was lovely about this is like,
that they can have like left and right audio then and like have direction to that. Or,
well, it means that like if you've got somebody who they're going to wear goggles already, convince them
probably
also
already
to wear headphones is not going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
And it meant that what happened was you have that wonderful thing. It's a big problem that first-person games have had for a long time, and they may just completely solve it immediately, is getting players to look at things. Because the problem is, the amount of times I've talked to developers who've been like, they've made this incredible like exploding spaceship diorama and then find the players just don't look at it because they're looking the other way. And the problem is, I'm going to be doing physical movement here, so sorry for listening, but basically when you hear something, you'd be like, you spin around, you spin your head around and go, what was that? What was that? You hear an explosion and there's no explosion on the screen. You just spin around until you see it, right? Because we've only got stereo sound most of the time. I mean, some people play with 5.1, but again, 5.1 is quite a specific setup that unless you've got a big American house, you're probably going to struggle to set it up properly. But with this, you get really accurate, with headphones, you get really accurate surround sound. So it means that you hear a noise and you specifically can then just turn around to exactly where that noise is because you know where it is. Because it's there. Like it's just your head just knows.
And I guess the difference there is that developers know that that's going to happen now, that they can rely on that.
I mean, it's like, I think the only problem they're going to have with that is, I guess, if VR is going to be a thing and it's going to be something people use, that's going to be a tech issue that people are going to have to get around. There's this idea of people completely isolating themselves. That's going to be weird for some people. This idea of like, not only can you not hear anything because you've got headphones, you can't see anything.
It's a bit intimidating.
What do you do when somebody's screaming in your kitchen? When somebody's broken their neck in the shower? Like, I don't know. Yeah. That's something people worry about. I'd be a bit worried about that. Yeah. Maybe I'm paranoid. No, I don't like the idea of you don't know what's going on around you.
So before, I actually thought you were going to say that when games really bring motion into it in the VR setups, that changed how I thought about it as well. I remember I played a really very brief tech demo for Alien Isolation. I think you might have played that as well, actually. And I found that because I could like move around in my seat and like peek over cover, and in fact there was one bit where like I was hiding behind some pipes and I could position my head so I could look through the pipes, which is something you can't do in traditional Alien Isolation. I found that I started moving my like physically whilst I was playing the game, not always to get an advantage as well. I would find myself like really bringing myself like kind of hunching together when the alien was close, trying to hide from it whilst I was playing, even though that physically, obviously, it doesn't know what you're doing and it doesn't make any difference.
But I think it might. You see, I think once we get like start combining stuff like this with some of the camera detection software that we saw with things like Kinect, which didn't really have a good purpose back then,
bring them in.
It would be quite cool to get physiological things.
I guess like the PlayStation set up quite nicely to maybe start doing that, because some people have the Eye and Morpheus. On top of that, they can sync together. But
I really hope it sticks around as a platform,
an expensive
and isn't a gimmick
setup, though, isn't it?
Because I think it's very early. It's got some interesting new problems. I think what's going to be fascinating about it is the fact that, and one of the dumb things we've noticed about VR at the moment is everyone's trying to apply VR to games as they are now.
Yeah.
When actually they just need to be designed in a different way.
Completely. So even the first-person games, the ones that you think might work really nicely with it, I often find that the fact that they're designed with a controller in mind, where you can move your head around with the right analog stick,
and it's so weird moving. I find in games where you're like running around and you're physically not moving, it doesn't feel that immersive. Yeah. It's an interesting control scheme.
Yeah, because you haven't got a head bob, because your head isn't bobbing, because you're physically not moving. It is a strange thing.
The one brief point of...
What are you talking about? I bob my head once.
Really get into it. Yeah.
Thought everyone did that.
But there was one bit, and I think this is why I think maybe for first-person action games, like VR isn't going to be the right way straight away. But there was one demo of the Oculus thing, which was like, it was just like a little diorama. It was like a very colourful little city. It was, imagine, like a kind of really like cartoony version of SimCity.
Right.
But because it was this small little cityscape, and I was so close to it, and I was so much bigger than it, it meant that you didn't have to move around much in order to really move around, you know? You could exist in a small space, but then cover a lot of ground.
It's almost like a giant peering in at this.
And it made me realise that it's going to be incredible for God games. And I don't know how I hadn't thought this before.
Yeah.
But actually, one of the genres I think will be amazing for is God games.
Yeah, you're right, because it puts you in that position. And
can you imagine a game where literally just with hand gestures and stuff, you're able to just be spinning around the world?
Pick someone up in front of you, put them in front of your face.
Yeah, I mean... What I loved was it had this tiny little helicopter which was floating above the city, and I could hear the helicopter. It was like I hear the rotor blades, and then I just like leaned my head in, so the helicopter was right in front of my face. And as I got close to it, the sound of the helicopter got much louder.
Yeah.
And then I realised I could hear, because I was closer, I could hear a little man screaming, and there was a little building on fire. Very close to that, and just being able to like move your head around like you were a giant peering into little houses.
Yeah, making these big, slow, deliberate moves.
And that was one of the first things I've seen where I thought this is something that could easily be applied and be interesting for games.
Isn't it a genre I've heard people talking about with reference to that? So that's cool.
But there's this thing of the tech is getting there. The tech is interesting, but I do feel like if the answer to the tech is going to be like, hey, you can play this game that you can play on the PlayStation 4 in virtual reality, it's just always going to be pretty weak. I think we actually need bespoke software made for the limitations. And I think those limitations are crazy. But yeah, a first-person action game that takes place entirely within areas which are 3 meters by 4 meters.
Yeah.
Like, that's a limitation. And actually, it could be amazing if somebody just made like a first-person like wave shooter where you're in a tower.
Yeah.
And all you do is just turn around and run over to the other, like run over 2 feet to the other side of the tower and start sniping. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But as soon as you have to start running any further than that, you're going to knock yourself out.
I'm playing an Oculus, it's not even a game, I'm not going to use that word, an Oculus experience on Friday, which is not going to be the reason that people buy the Oculus Rift, but I'm so interested to check it out. I forgot, I don't think it's got a brilliant name, I can't actually quite remember, but it's about being buried alive, and the way they're demoing it is you get in a coffin, an actual coffin with lining in it, and I don't know whatever. I don't know how big it is, but I imagine you'll be touching the sides whilst you're in it. Yeah, which I hear isn't amazing.
No, it's not fun.
And you put a VR headset on and you experience being buried alive whilst, as you move your arms around inside you'll be hitting the side. That
I'm going to jump in there with my Malaise and just have a complete mental breakdown.
Video games are shit!
I found Alien Isolation a little bit stressful. what I might like to try next is being buried alive.
Yeah, I would like a little lie down. Thank you very much.
Deeper, just deeper, put me in deeper. I don't want it.
That sounds to me really frightening. But again, it's just that's what I think VR needs to do. Is it needs to look at the limitations and build from the limitations rather than trying to just hokily be like, wow. Yeah, and I think actually using the lack of space, that's like an ultimate way of doing it. Having said that, it's a big waste of money, isn't it? Because it costs how much does it cost for an Oculus Rift? A couple of £100, right?
And then you've got to have a PC.
And you've already got to have a coffin to play it.
Okay.
If you spend a couple of £100 on bags of soil, I can fucking bury you alive for like half the price, I reckon.
So I'll
dig you up afterwards as well.
I don't think they're ever actually releasing this. I think it's a master's project that has got way out of hand.
I'd love it if what happens on Friday is they put the headset on you and then they go, right, you ready? And then everyone's like, then they put the lid on the coffin, carry it outside, lower it into the ground.
This is really immersive, you guys.
I'm muffled. Oh, this is so good. It really feels like it's happening. Meanwhile, Chris actually gets buried alive.
Yeah.
So if you don't hear from Chris ever again,
that'll be it.
He's playing Oculus under the ground
in a better place.
Eventually, the batteries in the coffin ran out. By this point, Chris had already worked out what was happening.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that seems like a good place to end everything. Yeah, thank you very much for listening to the Daft Souls podcast. Thank you very much for joining me. Obviously, Chris Brandt now of Eurogamer video production fame.
Terrifying.
Are you a podcast?
I'm a podcaster, yes. We have a podcast called Chat Very Good. It's myself, Joe, and a few other people. We just talk about anything and everything, just trying to simulate the conversations that friends would have if they just got together and shoot the shit. Simulate. We're not that authentic with it. It's Skype. We hate Skype. We hate each other. But yeah, it's I've been told it's decent.
So that's Chat Very Good.
Chat Very Good, yeah.
Chat Very Good. And if you haven't heard of Eurogamer, then I don't know what.
Bury yourself in the coffin.
Bury yourself in the
Absolute shame.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.